This is Newsnight. In the next 60 minutes, Ghana reclaims largest gold producer title on the continent, snatching it from South Africa and becoming the 10th biggest producer globally after a remarkable 32% surge in gold production in 2022. Details as the Lands and Natural Resources Minister attributes the achievement to policies introduced by President Akufo-Addo. We have details of that. Also tonight, calls increase for an independent probe to unravel circumstances surrounding the shooting to death of 5 men police say engaged its personnel in a gunfight at Botiano.
Extrajudicial killing of suspected criminals by the police in recent times is becoming one too many.
We are gradually beginning to see a certain affinity of police operations with dead bodies.
Already, some residents have fled over fears of reprisals. We're live in the area also tonight.
That new African is ready to fight his own battle and show that after all, the black man is capable of managing his own affairs.
After 66 years of borrowing, 17 IMF bailouts, we ask if Ghana is capable of managing its debts.
The problem is that historically, we always hit a roadblock where we just have to go and beg our creditors to forgive us.
And in business, UK government hints of new round of trade talks with Ghana in a bid to support the recovery of the economy after the country secured the IMF program.
And in sports, president of newly crowned Ghana Premier League champions Mediama vows to end Ghana's decade of poor performance in Africa inter-club competitions.
And in your election headquarters tonight, Alan Kojotra maintain first to file nomination among the 10 aspirants that have picked form so far to contest the flag bearer contest. He makes a passionate call for unity in the NPP.
I want to use this opportunity to make a passionate appeal to the delegates. As delegates, you are representing not only your own interests, but also the interests of the rank and file of our party.
We have details of that as the party revises its timetable for this particular presidential race. And then much later, it's time for National Science and Maths Quiz. We are still in the Central Region, and Wesley Girls SHS return to the Nationals with a resounding 39-point gap win in the regional qualifiers. That and more in tonight's edition of Newsnight. Do well to join us with your thoughts and comments is via WhatsApp 055-1111-997. If you're watching us live on Facebook or all our social media platforms, please leave a comment with the hashtag Newsnight. I am Emefa Apau.
And my name is Evans Mensah.
And many thanks for staying with us. In our very first story for tonight, Ghana has become Africa's largest gold producer and seating South Africa with a 32% jump recorded in gold production in 2022. Well, that's not all, Evans. Ghana is now the 10th biggest producer of gold globally as well. The large-scale gold subsector recorded its highest output in Ghana's history in 2022, contributing 3.1 million ounces compared to 2.7 million ounces in the previous year.
Well, the expansion of existing mines coupled with the increase in output from both small and large-scale sectors pushed Ghana's gold output to 3.7 million ounces in 2022, up from the previous year's 2.8 million ounces. MF, the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, Sam Abujunapo, provides further updates in the statement today.
Yeah, so portions of that statement talks about the fact that Ghana has regained the position, and this remarkable feat, he says, is attributable to the policies and programs being implemented by the Akufo-Addo government in close collaboration with the Ghana Chamber of Mines, gold production by large-scale mining companies, and it talks about the increase. And then also, whilst gold export from the small-scale sector rose from 98,001 ounces to 655,656 ounces over the same period. So overall, he says the country's gold output increased and is 2.82 million ounces in 2021. And And it goes on to say the revival of these two mines, that's talking about the Bibiani mine, which had been dormant for 7 years, was also revived in October 2022, he talks about. So these are the two key issues that pushed us to where we are today.
Thankfully, we can speak to the Lands and Natural Resources Minister, Sam Abu-Jinapor, who joins us on the line right now. Mr. Jinapor, thanks for your time here on Newsnight.
Thank you very much, my good friend Evans, and to MFR and to your cherished listeners.
So we see the increases both for large-scale mining, small-scale mining, but specifically, what accounts for this increase over the period?
Well, as I explained in my statement, we've been implementing a very comprehensive and ambitious policy program for the gold sector, the mining sector generally, but the gold sector in particular. And part of that policy is meant that we are ramping up production in the large-scale mining sector and also seeking to regularize and formalize the small-scale mining sector. Both of that have resulted in the increase in production, which has resulted in us becoming the number one gold producing country on the continent. You will see from my statement that I specifically mentioned the Anglo Gold Obuasi mine and the Bibiani mine, both of which have contributed significantly to our gold output, and also the reduction in the withholding tax for the export of gold from the small-scale mining sector has meant that that sector is a lot more formalized, and we're able to account for gold which is produced from that sector. But more importantly are the various large-scale mining operations which are going to come on stream in the next 2 to 3 years, and by that I refer to Cardinal Resources Namdini in the Upper East region, Azuma Resources in the Upper West region, and Newmont Ahafo North in the Ahafo region. And I believe all of this will position Ghana's national economy on the path of progress.
And I'm interested in the contribution of small-scale mining. We know that has been a challenge over the years, and we see here over the period that they also increased their output from 98,000 plus ounces to 655. For that particular bracket of production, is it down to the policy change with the taxes and the withholding tax alone, or we are seeing some other activities that are contributing to this?
My sense of it, and I think that that is also the conclusion the Minerals Commission has come to, is that this increase is fundamentally triggered by two main considerations. The first one is a reduction in the withholding tax, and once you reduce the withholding tax, it automatically means that a lot of the exports will pass through the former channels. Because when the withholding tax was 3%, you had places like Togo, Burkina Faso, Mali, and other places with their withholding tax being 1.5% or 1%, and that obviously will incentivize smuggling. So you then you're able to formalize the export of gold arising from small-scale mining. But that also has a direct implication for formalizing the sector, because once persons are exporting their gold through the PMMC, which is a precious marketing company of the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, you are able to keep an eye on their mode of operations, and by that I refer to small-scale mining operations. The second reason is the effort, the measures we put in place in respect of community mining, in respect of mercury-free gold processing equipment which have been distributed across the country, the reforms in the licensing regime, and generally the efforts we are making to regularize and formalize the small-scale mining sector. It's also meant that a lot of these operations are being brought into the formal loop, and it means that you're able to track the operations, you're able to track their production all the way through the exports. Yeah, so these will be the two fundamental reasons for this increase.
So we're doing great now, beating South Africa when it comes to gold production. But then the question about value addition comes in. Are we shipping all this abroad, or are we now taking deliberate steps to add value to this locally?
Well, that's a very important question you've asked. And I will add a second question. I would say the environmental, social, and governance principles, which is the ESGs. To what extent are we adhering to these principles? How well are we doing? So gold production is all well and good. It obviously means a lot more money into the national treasury. No two ways about that. Last year alone, the gold sector contributed 6.6 billion of exports received to the Ghanaian national economy. That is good news. More production means we're going to do well in terms of the national economy. But these two important points, which remains a challenge, which is value addition. We need to continue to work a lot more in building refineries in our country, not just refineries, but refineries which meet the international certifications. The notorious one being the LBMA certification. We need to cross that hurdle. We certainly need to ramp up our efforts with the gold purchase program by the Bank of Ghana, which means that our gold reserves at the central bank will show up, will go up. We need to pursue that policy vigorously. And secondly, and quite importantly, it's not even more importantly in my view, making sure that the whole sector adheres to the standards of ESGs, particularly the environmental standards, so that we are not just producing gold in large quantities, but we are doing so in a manner which doesn't compromise our environment. I think that's also very important.
And I noticed in this statement, you also link this to the gold for oil policy. What role has it played in this?
Well, it's played a very critical role because, as you know, the gold for oil policy is a derivative of the Bank of Ghana's broader policy of gold purchase. By a year or so ago, the Bank of Ghana, working in close collaboration with our ministry, has come up with a gold purchase program, which is meant that the Bank of Ghana is purchasing gold produced domestically. Part of it is the gold for oil, and therefore some of these reserves are being used, or some of these purchases are being used to support the gold for oil. And as we speak today, 20% of the production from large-scale mining operations goes to support this gold for oil, as well as all production from small-scale mining or sector is being leveraged to support this policy. So it's just like the cocoa sector. It has a way of formalizing the industry, because if you don't adhere to certain principles and standards, the central bank working through PMMC will not purchase your gold, and therefore your market will be closed down on you. So yes, it's contributed not as significantly as one we wish, but to a very large extent.
Let's talk about South Africa for a second. I mean, they have been the big players in the field on the continent. They are having a challenge with, supply of electricity down there, and many will point to that as possibly the reason why their output had fallen short. It goes to the question of sustaining the gains that you just talked about. If South Africa puts its act together and fixes the challenges that they are having with electricity, they take over.
Well, the feat we've chalked is not principally as a result of a reduction in production in South Africa. It's fundamentally as a result of an increase in our production. And as you will see from the statement I issued, our production in the large-scale sector has gone up. Production and export in the small-scale sector has also gone up. But even more importantly, in my view, it's not so much competition between Ghana and South Africa. I think what is important is that we keep our production levels at a level where it will contribute to our national economy. Not just that, we work to add value to our mineral resources generally, gold inclusive. And thirdly, and quite importantly, we do so in a manner which does not compromise the integrity of our environment. I think these are the three key guiding principles of government policy. Now, I would be very surprised if South Africa, even in the medium to long term, was able to overtake Ghana, because as I indicated in the statement again, you will see that in the large-scale mining sector, we have very ambitious projects coming up. The Cardinal Namdini one, for example, in Upper West, is going to, when it's on full stream, is going to be the third largest gold operation in our country. Azuma Resources is going to come on board, and that is also going to contribute significantly. Nimon Ahafo North is a major project, and the company is working around the clock to get it on stream. And so when you look at the projection and you look into the future, Ghana is going to be a big player, not just on the African continent, but I believe in the world. But we should do so, as always, in a manner that contributes significantly to our national interest. And by that, I mean to our national economy.
And whilst you're increasing production, the major concern is the environment. Is illegal mining contributing to this boost in gold production at all?
Well, normally, you shouldn't, PMMC should not purchase even a single ounce of gold from any illegal mining operation. I mean, and I have a lot of confidence in the processes of the PMMC. And so I want to believe that all of these gold which are purchased from legal small-scale mining operations which are adhering to the standards we set for the small-scale mining sector. Of course, you will always have slippages here and there. We shouldn't discount that. But more importantly is how we sustain the measures we've put in place to ultimately rid the mining sector generally and the gold sector in particular of all the illegalities which compromises our environment and which destroys our river bodies and so on and so forth. That continues to be our responsibility. It continues to be our challenge, and we are not relenting on that at all.
Samuel Bujinapo, thank you very much. And he is the Lands and Natural Resources Minister.
Let's bring in the CEO of the Chamber of Mines, Dr. Suleiman Akoni. Thank you so much for staying with us here on Newsnight, as well as at least your role as a chamber in terms of getting to this particular spot has been highlighted by the minister. But maintaining the sport is the issue. What are we to do, knowing that South Africa is facing this energy crisis? And like Evans says, if they put their acts together, can we still maintain the number one spot?
Thank you very much for the opportunity, MFR and Evans. Yeah, I think the minister is right in saying that it's not so much about competition. It's really about how we can use, our position, our production to support the national economy. And for us at the Ghana Chamber of Mines, it's not so much the volume. Yes, the volume allows you to be on the map. That when it comes to ranking, you know that you are number one within Africa, which is a good thing. But over and above that, it is about retention of value. And the minister, for example, spoke about value addition, which is a core component of that. But then over and above that, you're asking yourself, what proportion of the value created by our number one position is retained within the country for the good people of this country? And for us, that's the larger question. And it requires deliberate policy working together, our Chamber of Mines and our sector ministry working together with other agencies to make sure that we retain that value which would go into, say, manufacturing, fabrication, hospitality, agriculture around the mining industry is retained within Ghana as much as possible, so that on the back of the mining industry we can grow agriculture, we can grow manufacturing, and so on and so forth. That is one of the key things we want to be doing with our sector minister going forward.
Well, for some, value is key when it comes to promoting responsible mining practices, as well as the sustainable development in the mining industry, and then the places that we mine, the areas that we mine exactly in terms of development for them. At least it's not just the number one spot. Are we working towards that as well?
I think it's critical. It's so important. That is why you need holistic plans around this. What plans do we have in place to uplift host communities on the back of mining? And we have fiscal policies and legislation within this country which allows proportion of mineral revenue to go to the communities for development. In any case, we know that the agents of development in the communities are the district and municipal assemblies within the mining communities. How often do we release these monies? Do we release them timeously according to law? There are gaps, and these are things we need to actually bring quickly, and making sure that those duty bearers at the community level, they really have the competence to be able to do this. I'm not saying that it's not there, but we need to beef up. We need to, if there are gaps, to work together to actually bridge this. Because there's one thing sending money there, and there's one thing actually transferring that
into development for the community. So, yes, it is good to be number one, like I'm saying it, but there's further work for us to do to be able to retain the value for the good people of this country.
We are grateful for your time. That's the CEO of the Chamber of Mines, Dr. Suleimana Koni there.
You know, in the past, the biggest challenge has been managing the small-scale mining area to ensure that it's legal and also dealing with the illegal mining aspects of this. There was a time when small-scale mining was banned altogether and which became an issue. Now, as you're hearing, this feat is partly down to not only large-scale mining but small-scale mining contributions as well. Michael Kojo-Pepra is the president of the Small-Scale Miners Association, joins us on the telephone line right now. And Michael, I'm grateful for the time here on Newsnight. And so as we've been talking about this Ghana taking over the top sport on the continent when it comes to gold production, your contribution has been acknowledged. What would you put this down to, considering that just a few short years back, small-scale mining was banned altogether?
First of all, let me extend my greetings to your listeners. As a matter of fact, Ghana became the leading producer of gold on the continent in 2017. That was because in 2016, Ghana produced a lot of gold, so it reflected in 2017. So when the ban was placed on small-scale mining, it didn't really have any direct effect on the production that has already been done.
And now, what do you put this down to?
I think the minister gave a very good report. But as a matter of fact, in our sector, government has not directly contributed any quota in our sector because this sector is a sector that has employed over 3 million Ghanaians. And as a matter of fact, we are producing almost 40% of the total gross production of gold in the country. But yet still, anytime that we call on government to partner our sector, then there is a problem because we always think about the negative aspect of the mining, especially the illegal aspects. But we have Ghanaians who are doing the right thing. So all the positive report that has come out is as a result of private investment being done by small-scale mining. So government should should give us an applaud. And as a matter of fact, see the best way we can be partners and we can improve so that at least we can migrate from small scale to large scale.
Thank you very much, Michael Kojo-Pepra, the president of the Small Scale Miners Association. So live here on Newsnight is on Joy 99.7 FM.
And despite having huge cancellation or the debt cancellation a decade ago, Ghana still loses almost 30% of its annual revenue to payments on its external debt alone and is currently under a 17th IMF program hoping to salvage an age-old economic problem, debt crisis. In our latest Hotline documentary, Joine's Isaac Ofieje takes us on a historical ride tracking Ghana's 6th decade of ballooning public debt stock in what we call the nation that begs.
We're described as not credit worthy. No creditors will continue to give us credit lines to run the business of government for the nation. And since we had only 4 years to prove that we could govern, we might be worse off than what we inherited. So we decided to go the HIPIC way, and it worked.
Ghana was the second biggest beneficiary of debt relief, literally in the world, though this is a list of African countries. In terms of the proportion of your GDP, and as a proportion of how much debt that was forgiven, Ghana was number 2 on the list of African countries at least. So you see that we had huge benefits from HIPIC. More than $6 billion of money was freed up for us.
The borrowing became a vicious cycle, and Ghana couldn't escape the trap even after debt forgiveness. Ghana discovered oil, and by 2011, the country had started producing and exporting its first barrels of crude oil.
I do not want Ghanaians to think that the oil discovery is the end of everything. That is the end of the journey. If anything, it's the beginning of the journey. We want to make sure that we derive the maximum benefit from the oil, but that should not take away attention from the other very important areas, agriculture. No nation can flourish without a strong agricultural base.
In January 2011, Ghana was said to become the fastest growing economy in sub-Saharan Africa, as projected by the World Bank, with an end-period growth rate of 13.4%. Indeed, Ghana ended 2011 with a growth rate of 14%. By 2015, Ghana's economy was in trouble, hobbled by widening current account and budget deficits, rampant inflation, and a depreciating currency. Credit dried up as interest rates rose and banks' bad loans piled up.
Precisely because the structure of the economy explains a lot of the things that you see at the macro level and even at the micro level. So that is fine, because essentially we don't add margins to the primary commodities. And look, the world thrives on margins. To the extent that you are not adding margins, you are not getting value, and therefore you don't command price in the market.
After several considerations, Ghana was back to the IMF seeking a fresh bailout. This was our 16th.
But by the time we went to Sinchi and looked at the policies and the rest, we realized, that it was going to be difficult. And then as, was the case, the development partners also decided that, they didn't think we could handle this problem ourselves. They look to the IMF, which is the lender of last resort.
It will be the last time we'll have to go to the IMF again for any such program. This will be the IMF program to end all programs.
One target of Ghana's 16th IMF program was to help restore our debt burden to sustainable levels.
The 16th IMF program actually failed on one of its objectives, which was to substantially bring down debt. So the 16th IMF program really did not do much in terms of bringing Ghana's debt to a sustainable level.
A nation that begs.
The full documentary aired on the morning show today, but it's also live on TV. You need to watch the video, the TV version. It's already out there on our many social media platforms as well.
It's showing at 8:30 p.m.
8:30 p.m. on the Joy News channel, but you can catch it on
our social media
on demand, really, on YouTube. This is just part one. Next week there'll be part two, and then there's a part three as well.
And part one is dubbed the Genesis.
And I've learned a lot through this, actually. You don't know why we are here. Many ask that question, right? How did we get here? Because that's why we put this out as the first episode. So you watch it, you understand how we got here, and before we move you into the other bits.
Let's do business now. George Riafe is here. What's that smile for?
Because I've seen the Michael Cross watch, and it's beautiful.
Oh. Expensive looking.
Okay. Well, coming up in business, UK government ends of new round of trade talks with Ghana in a bid to support the country's program with the IMF, and Moody's warns outcome of external debt negotiations could impact negatively on Ghana's credit ratings in the coming months. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Allianz Life and Ghana Pay.
Wonderful when everything worth doing is scheduled, hitting the stop button on your alarm just in time for your morning jog. That happy moment listening to your baby's heartbeat at the doctor's office. Or an arranged virtual meeting with that big client.
Buy airtime ahead of time with scheduled airtime service on MTN Momo. You can schedule your airtime purchase of any amount, daily, weekly, or monthly by dialing *170# option 3 and follow the process. Or simply dial *170*311# for a superb airtime purchase experience. You enjoy 100% bonus airtime anytime you recharge yourself with MTN Momo. Keep on talking with that 100% feeling. So, what are we doing today?
MTN.
Son, we are so proud of you for setting up this hospital. I really love those hospital beds and waiting chairs. By the way, did you import them?
No, Dad, I didn't. I actually got them from Kindle Books and Stationery right here in Ghana.
Wow. We also bought our office supplies, safes, executive desks and chairs from Kingdom, and they gave us expert advice on how to set up our office.
Guys, that makes 3 of us. I also got our sofa and bedroom sets, plus our dining hall furniture for our new home from Kingdom.
Wow, Mom, that makes 4 of us. I usually get my stationery items from Kingdom.
Kingdom. And my teacher also mentioned that our classroom furniture was provided by Kingdom.
So there you have it. Whenever you're thinking about setting up an office or acquiring furniture for your home, etc., Kingdom Books and Stationery should be your first point of call. With over 40 years experience in the industry, we stock and supply a wide variety of globally sourced office and home furniture, stationery and equipment. Visit our head office, Osu Akwaje, or our office near the Osu Stadium. We're also in Tema Community 1, opposite Olam SHS, Kumasi KNUST Campus, UCC Cape Coast, and now at the Marina Mall, Airport City. Or call us 0302 764101, 764209, or 762792. Visit our website www.kingdomgh.com.
Media Sambisanda mo. Eti emra tia no. Mumu hwan pa na tumi hwe na mo bodom pe mo mana yakono. Eye kwabna. Na mumu hwan so na tumi just mali me maye ni nyina de. Eye kojo. Enu kro. Kobre tumi hwe na bodom pe mo sense o yisu accident eba. Aye den aban ni do braye. Bo si eti na mo ban na sem mana ho de ne. Sa ani na kudwo nso yisu accident chako. Na enu ne de e ma wo se wo ye krejen fita. Na watimi asiri bedwo ma na feel you. Ey kojo. Yeah. Pepsodent Heba and a Pepsodent Charcoal. Afedie. You're gonna natural.
FTIJ Trading Katoyatu.
Luxurious affordable living is your right, and no one understands it better than BOT Properties. BOT Properties specializes in modern residential buildings and commercial office spaces. Our properties include the Equator, a 12-story made up of over 100 apartments near Accra Mall. Other Equator courts, we offer you the deluxe living experience with our top-of-the-range homes, high-quality homes built with style and precision to suit your lifestyle. The Equator Courts is a gated community with 2-story, 4-bedroom detached houses at Ogbojo, East Legon, near American House. Our office complexes include Zion House, Shiashi, East Legon, Zion House, Sofa Line Interchange, Kumasi. Our offices and apartments are for both rental and outright purchases at affordable prices and with flexible payment terms. Kindly contact us on 0257 960 919 or visit botproperties.com. BOT Properties, the new meaning of affordable luxury.
Shit, wahala no get breaks so. What is it? Some customers have left. Their mobile money payment didn't come. What?
Avoid such payment issues with BluePay. BluePay lets you easily receive payments on your mobile device with no e-levy charges. Simply enter your customer's number and the amount to be paid on your BluePay app. The customer will receive the BluePay prompt to confirm with their PIN instantly. Customers can also pay with bank cards using the BluePay POS device. Call or WhatsApp 054-7220-200 or visit bluepay.com.gh to register and get BluePay for your business today. BluePay, never miss a sale.
You're welcome back to Business on Newsnight. Now, the UK government has hinted of a new round of trade deal for Ghana to support the country's program with the IMF. The UK government is part of several donors that are expected to come on board after the country secured a program with the fund. Nigel Huddleston is the UK's international business minister, and he spoke to correspondent Manuel Cranting in London.
We definitely support the agreement with the IMF. It's really important. It's really important for Ghana. And we've had really constructive conversations as well about how we can help and support Ghana with its development, with its ability to raise taxes and all sorts of other areas. So we're there also to cooperate and provide advice. So we've got a really important trading relationship, but it's the valuable relationship we have as well with sharing experiences that can also help. That can be government, but it can also help identify opportunities, for example, with the City of London. So there's a whole range of opportunities out there that we're there to help Ghana and indeed other countries. Always engage in constructive conversations to see what we can do to help. But of course, you know, we've got a mix of commercial opportunities and business opportunities, but also we're there to help also with our aid program as well. So we work very carefully with FCDO and the Foreign Office on a whole range of opportunities. My role at the Department of Business and Trade is to encourage trade opportunities and investment opportunities, and that's really important. The best way we can do that with Ghana is helping them put themselves back on a sustainable footing where there's really reliable, solid investment opportunities.
UK's International Business Minister Nigel Huddleston in London speaking to correspondent Manuel Cranting. Now, ratings agency Moody's is warning that the outcome of the external debt negotiations could impact on Ghana's credit worthiness in the coming month. Now, this was captured in the latest report on Ghana. There is more in this business debt analysis.
Moody's noted in the report that depending on how the discussions to restructure external debt are finalized, that might impact on government finances in the coming month. This will be dependent on what government proposes and what the creditors are willing to accept. Moody's was also worried that increasing constraints to local currency funding are downward risk that could lead to another currency debt restructuring with larger losses. The ratings agency in its latest report on Ghana noted that it has upgraded the country's credit worthiness on the restructured bonds from CA to CAA3. This was influenced by the fact these new bonds that has been issued by government are not exposed to significant risk for now. This is more of an advice to investors or those that are holding these bonds that government inability to settle these papers have improved a little bit, hence the action. Moody's noted that following the completion of government debt restructuring, the future expected losses has been reduced. It also maintained that the country has achieved a degree of fiscal refill and therefore unlikely to seek another form of debt restructuring going forward. But despite this action, Moody's said Ghana is still within the bracket of highly speculative bonds or risk issued by a country or company.
And that is a business desk report. Now, oil marketing firm Gold has revealed that they are in talks with a new firm to partner when it comes to oil exploration business in the country. Gold was one of the local partners selected to partner ExxonMobil when they won the deal to start oil exploration in the country. However, the deal failed to materialize after the shock exit of ExxonMobil. Kwame Oseprempe is Group Chief Executive of Gold.
ExxonMobil left almost 2 years ago. Through the help of the Ministry of Energy, we were given some concessions, and I can assure you that as at now, we have credible entities on board which are prepared to partner with Gold in the upstream business. So we have not relented. The exit of ExxonMobil slowed down things, but we believe that with the partners that we are talking to now, and what they are and the figures that they are seeing, very soon we're sure we will get a credible partner to join us to push the upstream business up.
Kwame Oseprempe is the Group Chief Executive of GOEL. Now, some investors say the country's economic opportunities for the private sector are gradually coming on track as Ghana navigates its way out through the current global economic challenges. Dr. Roy Harrison is the Global Technical Director for Hurricane Pest Control, and he has been speaking to Joy Business after the company paid a working visit to the American Chamber of Commerce.
This is a perfect time to make sure that Orkin Pest Control is here in Ghana. We've seen now that the pandemic is past, we're seeing an increase in economic activities throughout the world as well as here in Ghana. There's a lot of growth going on. And we need to ensure that the environment here is comfortable, that structures are protected when the people come, that they don't worry about getting a disease. And we're just thrilled that we have partnered with such a great organization here in Ghana.
Dr. Roy Harrison is the Global Technical Director for Orkin Pest Control. So the stock market, if you have invested on the market from the beginning of this year, your returns now stand at almost 8% when it comes to other investments, apart from those financial stocks. And that's all for business on Newsnight. Back to you, Evans. An interesting development still with respect to the gold production. But some will say that at the end of the day, you want to look at the impact on the host communities and even the larger economy and even job creation as well. And sustaining that position, because we know what is happening in South Africa now. And some could say they could get back. But how does it also attract fresh investment in the space? Because the market is growing and the economies of scale and what it means for the
It's important, especially at this time where we are in economic crisis. You need everything you can find to help the economy at this time. And when you boost gold goes
more
up,
taxes,
production
right?
goes up. well,
more revenue.
We'll see. George, thank you very much.
Now, there are more calls for an independent investigation into circumstances leading to the killing of 5 men. The Ghana Police Service say engaged its men in a gunfight. Our visit to the community has revealed some residents have fled over fears of reprisals from other members of the gang suspected to be land guards. Maxwell Agbagba joins us in studio with details of a statement giving details of what happened.
Yes.
Let's go through it, what the police is actually saying.
Well, in fact, the police says on June 8th, it conducted an operation targeting criminal elements involved in robbery and land guard activities. We are told that these individuals had been terrorizing residents and landowners at Botiano and nearby communities. We are told that upon spotting the approaching police team, the suspects opened fire from their hideout, prompting the police to return fire. As a result, 5 of the suspects were injured and later pronounced dead at the hospital. The remaining suspects, we are told, fled the scene and are still on the run. Police is telling us that they've seized some weapons they'll be using as exhibits. And then we are learning that police is actively pursuing the remaining suspects, some of whom are believed to have sustained gunshot wounds.
Okay. Well, my colleague Pakwesi Shandorf has been to the community, just returned. But first, we can hear him interact with some residents who say they are fleeing the area for fear of attacks. That's one of them.
Akwe kuna yeye kuna kane ko ka happy da kajina kan wo fiu ne wo fiu da ne wo yiyo da kan ko ba ne kan wo shigbe onye wo ba bie don koma bele ne ka agbemi ye ko e bele ba ni gboko e be ka inga ke bi ho mo ba na wo ba kwa am mo ko be edino ko ne egban na wa.
Well, so Shandorf, tell us essentially what he's been telling you. He's been speaking Ga.
Right. So the man who just spoke, who we just heard, identified himself as the owner of the farmland where the incident actually happened. But he said he was not available at the time of the incident, and that if he were available, he himself may have lost his life. But he made a claim that I thought was significant. He said those who were killed were not land guards, and that they are part of the traditional outfit. In Ghana, they refer to them as the Asafuacheme, and that he knows them, and that they are not land guards. And this is the first time something like this is happening. But generally, the climate there is very tensed. Everybody, I mean, they refuse to speak to us because of course, fear of the reprisal attacks and all of that. So,
but is that the general sentiment? Because he's saying that the men who were killed were not, armed robbers or whatever it is that the police is describing them as. What did the residents also tell you? Those who spoke to you off record, what exactly have they been saying?
Well, it was. Let me say, all of them do not seem to believe the accounts of the police. They say that those who were killed were locals that they live with, and that they are not, foreigners and land guards and all of that. So generally, they were all contesting the accounts of the police.
Okay. Well, that's Shandorf returning from Botiano. But there are calls for an independent probe into circumstances surrounding this particular shooting to death of the 5 persons. Let's hear the ranking member of Parliament Defence and Interior Committee, James Agauga.
Extrajudicial killings of suspected criminals by the police in recent times is becoming one too many. Any call for an independent probe into the killing of 5 suspects, whether they are suspected land guards or whatever, cannot be justified. The police has always given some justification that normally they engage them in gunfights and they overpower them and kill. But listen, the butchering of 5 people to death cannot be justified in any circumstance. Any call for an independent probe is welcome. You would recall that 2 police officers who were in police custody, and the suspicion was that they were involved in the bullion van robbery incident, were shot dead by their own colleagues, and the justification was that they took them to a place around Botema to assist them to fish out for some of the suspects who probably took part in planning the bullion van attack. In the process, the suspected criminals who were in their hideout shot at the police, and in the course of a gunfight, the 2 suspects were the ones who ended up losing their lives. Look, the incidents are becoming one too many. There can be no justification for these killings. And I am particularly worried because following the establishment of the Police Intelligence Department, it appears that there have been some abuse because the incidents are becoming one too many.
There's some people who are saying that one way to eliminate all the doubts surrounding some of these deaths in high-risk operations like this one is to equip the police with body cameras. And I remember sometime in November 2022, the Interior Minister, Ambrose Derry, said at a press conference in Parliament and that the police, they've acquired some body cameras for the police. How do you think we can, stop some of these deaths that you describe as extrajudicial killings?
Well, Maxwell, if that was a commitment the minister made on behalf of government, so we would be demanding answers from the minister because once the promise was made, if they haven't provided the officers with those body cams, and we have repeated incidents of extrajudicial killings, which are unacceptable by any stretch of imagination. We can't justify these killings. Then it means that the minister may have misled us, and we'll have quite a number of questions for him to respond to in the coming days.
Well, so that's the ranking member on the Parliament's Defence and Interior Committee, James Agalga. There, let's bring in Musbao. He has the latest from the world of sports. A lot of action this weekend, and he's bringing us all the details.
Yes, well, it's the Black Stars. They are in town and started their training session, held their first training session at the Accra Sports Stadium earlier today, ahead of that game against Madagascar. Later this month is the final round of the AFCON qualifiers. If the Black Stars are able to win that game against Madagascar, then they qualify for next year's AFCON in Cote d'Ivoire. But now let's talk about the Ghana Premier League, because Mediama are champions, and it's after 47 years that the Takwa-based side clinched their first Premier League title after defeating Tamale City 3-0 in the last game of the season. Well, along with a 300,000 Ghana cedis cash prize, the club will represent Ghana and CAF Champions League. And according to the president of the club, Moses Amapaka, they are determined to break the jinx of Ghana's decade of poor performance in the CAF Interclub competition.
You can see, we've tried several times. How many times? 3 times. Consecutive times. We were on top and COVID came. We were on top and normalization also came. We go front and back. But today, God has made it. It's our time. And the title is in Takwa. Nana, this is how the world is. If you want good for yourself, there will be a lot of good and bad. Because the coaches, I was looking for a coach who will make me win the cup title. It was not coming. So I will continue pushing. And it came to a point I said, no, let me go back to my coach. No, it's a revelation. Because Adote was part of our 2 glories. Yeah. The 2 FA Cup titles. Yeah. So I decided, no, why don't we bring this man back? Then we brought him, and God has given the cup to us.
And I'm sure with your new stadium about to be completed, you are going to represent Ghana big time in Africa.
Very, very big. Very, very big. We are going all out. We have to bring the agents for Ghana to be on top of the Africa competitions.
Moses Amapaka, that's the president of Mediama Sporting Club, speaking there. So
Mediama. Is it the first time they're winning?
Yeah, first time in 47 years. They've won the FA Cup, I think, twice, but they've come close to the Ghana Premier League, but they just haven't been able to clinch it.
What's the price if you win it?
300,000 Ghana cedis. So you move from 250,000 to 300,000 cedis now, and you also get to represent Ghana in the CAF Champions League. That also comes with its own cash prize, but they have to play some preliminary games before they finally get to play where they call the money zone, which is the group stages of the CAF Champions League. And of course, talking about the CAF Champions League, Al Ahly of Egypt, they've won this year's edition after defeating Wydad Athletic on both legs, first and second leg there. So that's it for sports, brought to you by Pepsodent Herbal and Chaco. Pepsodent, every smile matters.
GFA has to be commended for the medals. Beautiful.
Yeah.
I must say. Very beautiful.
Improved, much improved
beautiful,
from
Charlie.
last season.
Did you see? Last season, I remember there was a lot of criticism. Oh my goodness, yes. And I think they've learned from that.
Yeah. People have mentioned medals given to KNUST graduates were better than last season's Ghana.
I remember that
champions.
controversy. Yes,
Yeah.
they
So
fixed it.
They fixed it.
Better than the account.
Yeah.
And this indeed is your election headquarters, and as you know, the NPP is gearing up to elect its flag bearer for the 2024 elections, and one front runner has today filed his nominations. He is Alan Chemanting, and he'll be talking about the need for the party to unite.
But whether we succeed or not in reaching our destination on this journey will depend on the choice that the kingmakers of our party make on the 4th of November this year. The choice to select the new flag bearer and leader of our great party. I want to use this opportunity to make a passionate appeal to the delegates who will be voting in our National Delegates Conference on the 4th of November. As delegates, you are representing not only your own interests, but also the interests of the rank and file of our party. What the rank and file of our party are asking for is that they need a new leader who will satisfy 5 basic conditions. They are looking for a leader who will help our party to break the 8 in 2024.
Well, Samuel Mbura was there and joins us in the studios. Samuel, he came to the party's headquarters in the company of some members of parliament who've endorsed him. Did he explain why?
Well, the MPs are saying that he's a right person to lead the MPP at this particular moment because he has a proven track record.
Who are these MPs?
These MPs include the Minister for Railway Development and MP for Hohoi constituency, Peter Mewu. We have Sylvester Tete, MP Botiano, English from Deputy Finance Minister and MP for Atiwa East, Abena Osayasare, MP for Mprayoso, Davis Opoko Ansa, MP for Asoka, Patricia PAG, and Bright Bachi Baligi of Lambosi. He spoke on their behalf.
Peak today, no one can give a definite figure as to how many MPs support any candidate.
How many are you supporting, Alan Chemanting?
That is why I'm saying no one can put a definite figure to it now, because before Alan met Parliament, people had different opinions about him.
I'm asking because I counted about 7 of your colleagues here.
7 of us just came with him because 7 of us, we just closed from a meeting, regional coordinators meeting, and those of us that came with him were the people that sat in the meeting and we came together.
There are more MP supporters.
So many. I mean,
can you place a number to that?
I said for now, I cannot place a figure on it because after his meeting, several other people have approached me, have approached some of my colleagues, they have made calls, they have sent messages. So to say I'm putting a figure of 50, 60, 70 to it, I may just be...
The impact of you, the MPs, endorsing Alan Chemanting's candidature?
The reason is that we want power in 2025. And there's no one in MPP now to give us power other than Alan Koje Chemanting.
Do you think the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, has already been marketed? He's popular than Alan?
I don't think so. I don't think so at all. And that is not what the grassroots are saying. If you are in touch with the grassroots, we have someone that is popular amongst MPP or popular in government, but not popular at the grassroots, not popular amongst the Ghanaian people.
So we're looking forward to it, and they announced also today a slight change in the schedule for the filing of nominations, etc., and that will guide the roadmap towards the later this year when they first do the super delegates conference to whittle down the number to 5. We'll see.
We'll see how it goes.
All the way.
Your top 5? You have a top 5?
No, of course. Deliver me from temptation, please. I have no top 5. Let the delegates decide. We'll just be there to cover.
Okay. Well, we'll see how it goes. But let's talk about potholes. Maybe that one you can talk about, can't you? Yeah. The headquarters of potholes, I can tell you for a fact, is the Kandishi First Light Odoko Waterworks. Yes, Charlie, is bad. But in today's edition of Joy News Ghana Potholes Exhibition, my colleague Parkwesi Shandov captures the deplorable spectacle which has become a headache for both drivers and commuters.
Creamy beverages always delight the tongue, but splashes of the ones on the streets of Accra do not satisfy drivers. Instead, it makes their tongues wag with complaints and endless frustrations.
The situation has persisted for the past 7 years. We've been pleading with authorities, but to no avail. Because of the poor nature of the road, a lot of people have actually lost their lives while crossing it.
But how do these creamy beverages end up on the streets in the first place? Potholes. They are served and produced by potholes, a menace on almost all the roads in the country. Apart from serving what looks like beverages on the streets, potholes also create other embarrassing scenes on our roads. Terrible, devastating, and a real pain. These are some of the strong adjectives commuters use in describing the glaring potholes sitting in the middle of some parts of the Kaneshi-Malam Highway, a principal road network in the capital, Accra. A brief inspection of some parts of the highway from Kaneshi First Light to Odoko Waterworks indeed affirmed that the sentiments of road users are not far-fetched, neither are they exaggerations. The situation is simply an eyesore, posing a lot of unbearable inconveniences for commuters. Some of the road users who spoke to Joy News could simply not hide their displeasure.
Charlie, this one ain't no good, honestly. Every time in less than like 6 months, it gets back to, worse. Yeah, it's really bad. This road original was very, very good. They came with a certain machine and then they just graded the whole road. And the thing was supposed to fix it some way, somehow. And that's what actually started this whole thing.
It's very bad. And this road, they do the road. I don't know the kind of things they are using to do the road. If they do the road more than 1 month or less than 1 month, then there's damage again. And we are pleading to the government to come and do the road for us.
The cars are not able to move freely here due to the gullies, creating a very awkward situation all the time.
I wonder why authorities can't fix the situation. As usual, they are waiting for a child of a high-profile person to die on the road before they get to work. Meanwhile, if the youth block the road in protest now, they will be questioned.
Just in the middle of the road at Odoko Waterworks is a more dire situation. A pool, not designed by nature, sits openly in the road, created by constant friction between car tires and the road.
The water is just destroying the road, creating manholes on the road. The water has also blocked the road, so we are pleading with authorities to promptly address the situation.
For the scores of road users who are not happy with the numerous potholes that have littered the stretch from Kaneshi First Light all the way to Odoko, their concern is that government must speedily intervene in order to avert the inconveniences that the situation normally poses for them. For Joy News, my name is Pakwesi Shandoff.
And that's it for Newsnight tonight. Just before we go, MFS former school, Wesley Girls Senior High School. Oh, sorry. You didn't go to Wesley Girls?
No, please.
Where?
I went to Ola Girls Senior High School.
I was giving you a better school than that.
Are you kidding? Are you kidding me?
I'm sorry.
No. Ola is okay for me.
Ola is okay.
I like
it. But Wesley Girls is Wesley Girls.
Oh, please.
Yeah, by the way. So, Wesley Girls Senior High School, they've made a triumphant return to the prestigious National Science and Maths Quiz. And not that we are surprised, after a resounding win in the regional qualifiers. And as they prepare for the national state, Wesley Girls SHS is poised to make a strong impact and vie for the ultimate. Did you know, the last year we're talking about this, that no female senior high school has won this before? And I'm rooting for Ola. It's not.
We went very far the last time. We all remember how we performed. At least the only girls' school that really made it that far. So we're hoping we'll do it again. It was Ola Girls. Check. Just check. Yeah.
And Obri, get in touch.
We know that Obri of YSHS is also making history. They've also qualified to the nationals for the very first time in the Upper West region also, where Emmanuel Bright-Kweku is also reporting from. We know that Michael Ashali is in the Central region and Emmanuel Bright-Kweku is in the Western region as we speak. And we know that Francis Xavier Seminary SHS are vying for the national championship among others. There's more when you log on to myjoyonline.com. And Answer is up next with That's My Opinion. Please vote for a begging leader. That's the topic. It's on the back of a nation that begs.
Enjoy the rest of your evening.